Magic Jar. Ooh. This is probably the second most complicated spell in the entire game. There's a bunch of strategies and tech related to this spell. There's so much. This single spell can change your entire campaign. I'm literally not joking. It is so powerful. And there's so much roleplay potential around this spell. I've even played in a whole campaign that was just about Magic Jar. This is going to be a very long video, so get some popcorn or pizza and take a seat. Welcome to Pack Tactics, where, this spell is scary. Magic Jar is a 6th level spell accessible to wizards, bards, and arcana clerics. It has a casting time of 1 minute and requires a 500 gold container as a material component. It also lasts until dispelled. Here's its description. It's a page long. I'm not joking. Your body falls into a catatonic state as your soul leaves it and enters the container you used for the spell's material components. While the soul inhabits the container, you are aware of your surroundings as if you were in the container space. You can't move or use reactions. The only action you can take is to project your soul up to 100 feet out of the container, either returning to your living body or attempting to possess a humanoid body. You can attempt to possess any humanoid within 100 feet of you that you can see. Creatures warded by protection from evil and good or magic circle spell can't be possessed. The target must make a charisma saving throw. On a fail, your soul moves into the target's body, and the target's soul becomes trapped in the container. On a success, the target resists your efforts to possess it, and you can't attempt to possess it again for 24 hours. Once you possess a creature's body, you control it. Your game statistics are replaced by the statistics of the creature, though you retain your alignment and your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. You retain the benefits of your own class features. If the target has any class levels, you can't use any of its class features. Meanwhile, the possessed creature's soul can perceive from the container using its own senses, but it can't move or take actions at all. While possessing a body, you can use your action to return from the host body to the container if it is within 100 feet of you, returning the host creature's soul to its body. If the host body dies while you're in it, the creature dies, and you must make a charisma saving throw against your own spell DC. On a success, you return to the container if it is within 100 feet of you. Otherwise, you die. If the container is destroyed or the spell ends, your soul immediately returns to your body. If your body is more than 100 feet away from you, or if your body is dead when you attempt to return to it, you die. If another creature's soul is in the container when it is destroyed, the creature's soul returns to its body if the body is alive and within 100 feet. Otherwise, that creature dies. When the spell ends, the container is destroyed. Okay, so there is a lot to talk about. First of all, no, I am not using this on Gator. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm a lawful evil kobold murder hobo who worships Tiamat. But this spell is evil. I would never do something so evil to Gator. Not even for an example or a joke. But it's okay to corrupt you guys on the internet. I love corrupting players. It's my favorite. But Kobold, I think it's more messed up what you did to the Hollyphant. Gator, you should edit that out. Anyways, let's get back to the script. Kobold, you forgot to write about Nistel's magic aura in the script. So, there's a bunch of tech with that spell, but it's so dumb and broken and cursed that I'm never gonna cover it. It's completely banned from my videos. I'm never gonna cover it. But you know what isn't banned? Luminous Lore. It's the most insane setting book I've ever seen. It's a realm created from dreams themselves, where the gods walk among mortals and powerful factions vie for control for the artifacts that grant absolute control over the gods themselves. This monster of a book is over 300 pages long with hand-drawn art everywhere. 10 epic cities with detailed encounters and maps for you to explore. 55 dream and godly artifacts. 30 new dream spells, and these are insanely fun spells. Like, holy moly. 45 dream monsters and godly avatars for you to challenge, 13 subclasses, 8 species, and much more. These guys have been building this setting for more than 10 years. They even have novels and comics and card games about this setting. They've also worked with Wizards of the Coast with Magic the Gathering. Now, what makes this stand out from normal setting books is this is also an arts bible, which makes it insanely fun to skim through and touch. I'm not joking when I say this. There is more art in this than you would find in majority of Monster Manual books. Like, holy moly. All of it is hand-drawn. Man, the vibes I'm getting from this book is Middle-earth, Might and Magic, Faerun, the 80s in general, and even power metal. This, to me, is Dungeons and Dragons. Check out their Kickstarter. I want this book. I'm donating to this. I dream for books like this. It's art. Back to the video. The first thing this spell does is put you, or, well, your soul, in a jar or container of some kind. You can stay there until it is destroyed, or you possess a creature within 100 feet of you that you can see. The jar is also probably a viable target for Dispel Magic to kick you out, but more on that later. Let's look at an example. Let's say you possessed a champion from Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. That champion's soul is now trapped in the jar, whereas yours moved to their body, and this can possibly be forever. You are a level 11 custom lineage divination wizard who picked telekinetic as your bonus feat. That means you are at the minimum level to get Magic Jar. What are your statistics after the possession? Let's go through this step by step. Your game statistics are replaced by those of the creature. This is you now. Congratulations. Next, it says you retain your alignment and your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. Let's say you had 20 intelligence, 8 wisdom, and 8 charisma. We replace the numbers here and put back the actual numbers. It also says you retain the benefits of your own class features. This includes hit dice and hit points. It also says you can't use the creature's class features. But hit dice and hit points aren't a class feature in the NPC stat blocks. That means you get both. So we get to add 6 plus con as well as 1d6 plus con mod for each of your wizard levels beyond first level. We look at the champion's hit dice, which are 22 d8s, and add 11 d8s. The hit points for this champion are given as an average, so 22 times 4.5 plus 44 is 143. Maybe the champion you possessed has a different number of hit points. Regardless, you first add 6 plus con, which is 8 for a champion, and then add 1d6 plus con mod for each of your wizard levels. If we assume we just take 4, that means we get 68 additional hit points total for your champion. This is you. Now, some of you might argue that this double dipping is dumb, and I absolutely agree with you. If you want to play this close to raw, I would do an average of 22d8 plus 10d6 plus 6 plus 11 times 2. Basically skipping the 44 hit points they get through Constitution by default. Though using the hit points from the champion is probably fine too. Next, you keep your proficiencies. This is in addition to the proficiencies of the NPC, as these are also not class features. For equipment, the default assumption for NPCs is that they are proficient with the gear on their stat block. So for this champion, it's plate armor, greatsword, and short bows. To this, you can add daggers, darts, slings, quarterstaff, and light crossbows. For saving throws, you keep their strength and constitution saving throw proficiency, but add your intelligence and wisdom saving throw proficiency. Similarly, you can add your skill proficiencies to the set of athletics, intimidation, and perception. Interestingly, your proficiency bonus isn't explicitly a class feature, and would therefore probably not be carried over. This means you have to recalculate your bonus to these saving throws and skills based on the bonus from the monster. The same for the features that mention our proficiency bonus, like saving throw DC. This is based on their CR. For a champion of CR9, this would be +4, which you can actually find on their stat blocks nowadays. Here's my view on the matter though. Maybe it is indirectly a class feature. Spellcasting is also a class feature for players. This means you keep your spells in spell slots, which is incredibly powerful. You also get your subclass features, as those are part of your class features, and things like feats gained through class, ASI, arcane recovery, and so on. At this point, you are a champion with different mental stats, a bunch of HP, more skill proficiencies, spells, and other class features. However, one thing you do not keep is the features from your race, or species, or whatever it's called. Makes sense. You are in a different body. That means as a custom lineage, you lose features such as your creature type, size, and speed, which is probably not a big deal. But also, you lose your ability score increase, feats, variable traits, and languages. There is an edge case for the first two, however. We do keep our mental stats, so if we choose +2 intelligence for our ASI, we retain that as part of our mental stats. The same applies for the stat increase from the telekinetic feats that I mentioned before, just not the other benefits of telekinetic, like the shove part. But Kobold, the spell says if the target has any class levels, you can't use any of its class features. Why does that never come up here? The champion fighter exists. True, champion is a fighter subclass too, but they only share a name. A champion stat block has no class levels. Though here's something funny that not a lot of people know about. The only class feature that used, it's not anymore, to explicitly be a class feature on a monster stat block was the spellcasting trait. Interestingly enough, even the monsters with that trait didn't have class levels. They just had levels of spellcaster. What do you mean by used to? History lesson. The first print of the monster manual as well as D&D Beyond said, a monster with the spellcasting class feature has a spellcaster level and spell slots, which is used to cast its spells of first level and higher. The spellcaster level is also used for any cantrip included in the feature. This was changed in either the 10th print of the book or even earlier, and has remained the same since. Unlike D&D Beyond, it says, a monster with the spellcasting special trait has a spellcaster level and spell slots. It is no longer mentioned as a class feature. Weird, right? I'm not entirely sure why they did this. I could see DMs hand-waving the lack of class levels before, but now that they are neither class levels or a class feature, I think there's no way around spellcasting on NPCs being retained. This definitely shakes up the metagame around Magic Jar. Some creatures are stronger than others. Sometimes you can guarantee access to a cool stat block, albeit through summoning spells and planar binding, or transforming one creature into another with true polymorph. At that point, go wild. Other than that, it's just get lucky, or go out and find specific creatures like through divination spells. A topic I'll get into more in the future eventually. Once the creature is looking rough, you can knock them out instead of killing them. This is how my friends ended up with the Drow Inquisitor Wizard. Later on, they managed to knock out a Githyanki Supreme Commander. That resulted in the wizard giving up the Drow Inquisitor body, which the Arcana Cleric took over instead. And then the wizard became the Githyanki Supreme Commander Wizard. I was not playing in that game, by the way. I don't know the full details. They just told me they did this. And getting control of a Githyanki Supreme Commander is insane. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way, possessing NPCs you know. Or you can possess creatures that are easy to find. You just look for the ones that have higher dexterity and constitution scores than your own, heavy armor and shield proficiency, lots of hit points, you know, the strong martial enemies, or NPCs. I'm sure you'll find someone like that. You are level 11 or higher. Or you can look out for skilled spellcasters. Here's Here's another thing you can look out for. Creatures with many legendary resistances could be interesting. What about legendary actions? I'm not sure how that works. There are rules about assuming the form of a creature, not allowing you to retain these. I would interpret Magic Jar as you assuming the form of a creature, though I imagine this is supposed to be here for true polymorph. I don't think there's a clear verdict, but I lean towards no legendary actions. Speaking of things that are unclear, it is generally useful to keep your jar close by, as when the host body dies, you die if the container is more than 100 feet away from you. But there are more ways to be shunted out of the host body. Either the spell ends or the container is destroyed. When does the spell end? Well, when it is dispelled. What has to be targeted to dispel Magic Jar? I have no idea. In my eyes, the Magic Jar effect could be on multiple things, like the jar or the possessed body. This, of course, has a large effect on how Magic Jar plays out in your game. If someone casts a spell magic on the possessed body, that could be an instant death effect if your body is too far away. So you do want to keep your body around somehow. Maybe the best way is with a floating disc spell, or something like that. If your original body is a kobold or something, then holding it around is pretty easy. You can just shove your kobold body in a backpack. It's no problem. Maybe you'll want to enact some precaution against being shunted out of the body you possess. If so, there are multiple ways to go about this. Warning though, all of this is tech, and might work differently at your table depending on how things are ruled. If you're gonna do any of this tech, talk to the table first. I would say there are 3 methods. 2 of them are mentioned in the Peacecron article from Tabletop Builds, which I'll link down below. Method 1 requires us to cast Clone on ourselves while possessing our favorite form. You then wait until the clone is mature before you die. Then your soul should go to the clone without worry. Method 2 depends on how Magic Jar is ruled, as mentioned before. With Method 2A, Magic Jar affects the soul, which means it can only be active once, as explained in my spell stacking video. If so, we first possess our favorite form. We then cast Magic Jar again to possess another body. This suppresses the effects of the first Magic Jar, while the durations overlap. We now destroy the first container. Because the spell is currently suppressed, we aren't affected by the consequences. We then use our soul to return to the second container, and an action to end the second Magic Jar, which leaves us in our favorite form. With Method 2B, Magic Jar can be activated twice or more. If so, we also start possessing our favorite form and then possessing another body. We then use an action to return our soul to the first container, and an action to end our first Magic Jar, which puts us in our original body. We then use an action to return our soul to the second container, and an action to end the second Magic Jar, which leaves us in our favorite form. With Method 3, we need a friend, or some other way to cast Death Ward on ourselves. If we accomplish this, we simply destroy the container while our body is more than 100 feet away from us. This would generally kill us. However, due to Death Ward, this effect is negated, meaning our soul will not return to our original body. That's basically it. That's Magic Jar. Very complex and extremely overpowered. If you want to use this spell at an actual table, please talk to the DM and the players. This is a very dangerous spell that can actually hurt the game, so you guys need to talk it out. Communication and trust is the key to your victory. This spell is too advanced to just suddenly spring at a table. End of video. Bonus content. I'm going to read a spell from Luminous Lore because I want to. Captivaris Minor Theft. 2nd level spell, action, 30-foot range, available for bards and warlocks. You draw and capture an item within range from a creature or location. The creature must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, you steal one non-magical item that the creature is wearing or carrying that isn't armor, or a second weapon in their hand. The stolen item then appears in your Captivary book, or surface of choice. Oh my god, Kobold, you're naked on video! Gator, did you really just cast that spell on me?
Yeah, it works on clothing, and now it's trapped in this book. You can't get it back. Haha, funny.
Gator, you motherfucker!